Who is on the Disney Channel Mount Rushmore? Okay, this was a question the great Raven Simone,
The Great Raven.
of Everybody Loves Raven fame.
Yes.
She dropped on her podcast.
That's So Raven.
Huh?
I couldn't tell if you were making a joke.
What?
Her show was called That's So Raven.
Oh my
Not
God.
Everybody Loves Raven.
Okay.
That's Everybody Loves
Fuck.
Raymond.
Yeah.
And he has a very different energy, and
Yeah.
he's not a psychic.
So anyway, Raven Simone of Seinfeld fame.
Raven Simone of Seinfeld.
Of Seinfeld fame. Of Game
That's
of Raven.
So Seinfeld.
Of Game of Raven.
Yeah. Of Friends who are named Raven.
Friends who are named Raven. Okay, but anyway, Raven Simone dropped her Disney Channel Mount Rushmore, and it created a lot of debate because, again, not to question Raven, but it does seem like there were some pretty big omissions. So Raven Simone's Disney Channel Mount Rushmore was Hilary Duff. Can't really argue with that. And then her other three were herself, Fair, Shia LaBeouf, and Lee Thompson Young, who apparently was on The Famous Jet Jackson before my time. Who am I to question? Who am I to question? Before my time.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. That got us thinking, all right, I think I have, dare I say, the definitive Disney Channel Mount Rushmore, the correct one. And to be clear, these are not my favorite kind of four entities from Disney Channel. These are just like the most iconic foundational figures of Disney Channel.
Specifically, characters that he feels have defined Disney Channel as we know it today.
Exactly. And I'm going to include at least one whose show I didn't even watch. So I'll just, here is my definitive Disney Channel Mount Rushmore. One, Hilary Duff. Can't really argue there. And I never even watched Lizzie McGuire when I was a kid. But such is her impact that I associate her with Disney Channel so strongly.
Yes. Lizzie McGuire did a lot of things for the Disney Channel brand.
Yes.
Yes. That helped build out who the audience is and like what kind of vibe Disney Channel has.
Yes. And then my number two, Raven Simone. That's So Raven. Can't argue there. Impact. This was my time. I did watch That's So Raven. Loved the show That's So Raven.
Everybody loves Raven.
Everybody loves Raven. Three, my third spot on the Mount Rushmore, Miley Cyrus.
Yes.
It is just like Miley Cyrus is, I think, the height of what pure Disney Channel stardom looked like. Hannah Montana literally set a new benchmark for like Disney Channel stardom.
Well, yeah, modern Disney Channel perception is so informed by Hannah Montana irrefutably.
The Disney Channel machine worked to its zenith with Miley Cyrus on Hannah Montana.
Yes.
And that's not to dismiss, obviously, Miley Cyrus's talent. That's obvious. But it's just like, that was a perfect confluence of talent and talent package. Miley Cyrus would be number three.
I would also say Miley's specific ability to transcend Disney Channel stardom into mainstream stardom marked a new era of like Disney Channel success didn't have to be confined to the Disney Channel.
Yes, but I think crucially, this is a Disney Channel Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
So I am not counting bangers, other Miley Cyrus stuff. I'm just counting Disney Channel impact, which leaves me the final spot on my Mount Rushmore. So far we have Hilary Duff, Raven Simone, Miley Cyrus, and then my fourth spot, Zach and Cody. And I know that, you know, they're twins. So I know that they're two people, but I think they get one spot. I think Zach and Cody are the kind of fourth pillar of Disney Channel history.
And when I heard Robert say this Mount Rushmore, the contrarian in me wanted to be like, that's not right. Shut up. You don't know anything about Disney Channel. But the rational, level-headed version of me was like, that's right.
Midnight Milkshake.
So we all know dating a guy with student debt is a huge turnoff.
Dana, I have student debt.
I know, and I wish you didn't.
How could I have avoided student debt? I had to take out student loans so I could get my college degree.
You could have enrolled in campus.edu/Midnight Milkshake. Their tuition is a fraction of what a traditional four-year college costs, and most of their students attend with no out-of-pocket tuition costs because no one should be taking out crazy student loans.
That wasn't a thing when I was going to college.
Bet you wish it was.
Well, yeah, I guess I wish it was. Check out campus.edu/Midnight Milkshake because apparently student debt is a huge turnoff.
As we know Disney Channel today, I would say those are the four kind of iconic, influential characters that have, like, again, really impacted the feel and vibe of like what Disney Channel is. And I also think like the legacy of that specific vibe is what carries on, which is like this kind of like girly poppy. And I think also specifically with Zach and Cody, the final on Mount Rushmore, Dylan and Cole Sprouse, that actually invited in a new male demographic that previously I would say Disney Channel seemed like it was really female leaning for the most part.
And by the way, but Zach and Cody, women love Zach and Cody.
Women love Zach and Cody.
I also think it's very telling. It's like Zach and Cody, what did that show bring us? It brought us London Tipton and it brought us Ashley Tisdale, playing a character whose name I forgot.
Maddie.
Maddie.
That's why you forgot it.
Of course, Maddie.
Because she's just
call her Ashley Tisdale at that point. But again, I think those are the four. And again, look, here's the deal. On some level, this is subjective. Everyone has their own opinion.
Yeah.
But also, like, I feel like I'm objectively right.
I feel like when it comes to which characters defined the vibe of the network that we know today, I would say that that's correct.
Who's laid the iconic foundation?
Yeah.
So, and that would be, and again, just not to take a victory lap, but we got Hillary Duff, Raven Simone, Miley Cyrus, Zach and Cody. That's the big four, I think.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to some noticeable omissions. So obviously people would say stuff to me like, people would say stuff to me. Your reaction might be, I don't talk to anyone. I talk to you. That's all, you're the one I talk to. And you just said you think I'm right. So what am I even saying? But I think the obvious debate would be like people like Selena Gomez or Demi Lovato. Those names came up a lot. And here's my thing. Two things. One, they're I guess three things. One, they're great. Love to all. But I would say both Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez, they were kind of really coming on the heels of Miley Cyrus. Their success and impact on Disney Channel was essentially just diluted versions of what Miley did on Hannah Montana.
Well, to say Miley walked so they could run, but actually all of them ran in varying capacities.
But it's almost like they saw Miley run and they were like, oh, we can run like that.
Exactly. So
I would say, and also I do think, and again, Wizards of Waverly Place was huge, but I also think like most of why you would even argue for Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato is low-key their impact outside of just Disney Channel. I think also, like, I'll say this for myself, dude, I guess Demi Lovato was on that show Sunny with a Chance.
Yes.
But when I say Demi Lovato, I think of Cool for the Summer and Frozen Yogurt.
And Camp Rock, Big Chill Scandal.
Yeah, I think of Big Chill, Cool for the Summer.
I think of they, them pronouns.
And they, them pronouns followed quickly by a return to she, her, which everyone is on a journey.
I think that I respect the fuck out of changing your pronouns and changing them back because I think it's really brave. I think it's really brave to change your pronouns back.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
If anything, Demi Lovato changing her pronouns back is proof that when she changed her pronouns the first time, it was authentic.
Yes.
Because everyone always loves to be like, you're doing it for attention, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Because if she was doing it for clout, she never would have gone back.
No, because why would you give up that clout?
And also, it's fundamentally kind of embarrassing.
It's humiliating.
To be like, I'm they, them, psych. But that shows that she was earnest, that at the time, they were earnestly they, them.
Yes.
Because they then were earnestly she, her
yes.
after. So it to me, it validates the entire journey.
Again, I think any attempt to redefine and re-identify yourself in the public sphere, even when it might seem embarrassing, I really respect it.
And she was pissed about that frozen yogurt situation.
Was. And maybe she was right. I forgot what happened exactly.
Yeah, but I think they've since made up. But anyway,
I do want to go try that yogurt place.
I bet it's good or bad. Either way, interesting. But here's what I also want to say. Notice how we're not talking about Sunny with a Chance on Disney Channel.
Well, also Sunny with a Chance famously only ran 2 seasons. It like never really popped that hard. Like Sunny with a Chance never really happened.
Now, Demi defenders would point out her work in Camp Rock and Princess Protection Program.
But I also think when we talk about Disney Channel, we are talking about the TV shows.
No. I think we'll include original movies.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's a Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah.
I think we'll include, like, we won't include So Undercover, but I think Disney Channel original movies count.
Right, but the 4 that we named, or 5.
Sure, but when I say Raven Simone, I am including Cheetah Girls. In my, I think if it's a Disney Channel original movie, that counts.
Did you know my first concert ever was Cheetah Girls featuring Hannah Montana? Like Hannah Montana opened for the Cheetah Girls. That's how early on this was.
I mean, that's effing awesome. Well, I think that was Raven's argument for not having Miley Cyrus, was she said Miley came after. And I think Raven was like, I paved the way for Miley, which is certainly true. But it's like, you could argue, Thomas Jefferson paved the way for Teddy Roosevelt. They're both still on the Rushmore, Yeah,
totally.
Dude, isn't it crazy how as soon as we stopped talking about Disney Channel Mount Rushmore and started talking about regular Mount Rushmore, it got boring as fuck all of a sudden?
No, I literally, like, my eyes glazed over and I zoned out.
But,
well, when you say, like, certain old man's names, and it's so interesting that when you say a man's name, I know that he's old.
Yeah. But it's almost like a double negative becomes a positive, though. When I say Zach and Cody, you're back in.
I'm back in.
So we should have twins as president, and they're both president.
Oh my God, I love that. And they can like switch off. Would we as the public know they were twins, or would it be like a secret thing?
That's
like,
a really great
point.
point.
Would they be twins? Would they be pretending to be one guy so that they don't have to work as hard? Maybe they'd be better at being president because they wouldn't be overworked.
Well, I was picturing literally Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, but they're the president.
Well, Did you ever see the That's So Raven spinoff, Corey
Corey
in the House? Yeah.
I saw ads for it. It did not interest me. Believe it or not, I wasn't watching That's So Raven for Corey.
That's
He was
fascinating.
good though. But anyway, circling all the way back,
Yes.
I would just argue that Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez, their Disney Channel impact was essentially just like reheating the nachos of Miley Cyrus in a great way. So I love these people in a great way.
Well, when I think of Selena now, I think of Bernie.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it's like when we say we're not counting their achievements outside of Disney Channel. I'm also not counting a Selena Gomez like kissing Benny Blanco's dirty feet because that's outside of Disney Channel.
That has nothing
none of
to
my
do with
business.
the Disney Channel.
Now, I will say a lot of people would say, for example, Brenda Song, who I love, and I think I think we're gonna get a Brenda Song renaissance in the mainstream like acting world.
A
soon. A song-a-sance. I do think that. But her impact on Disney Channel itself was, if anything, I thought Disney Channel underutilized her. But you're thinking of London
also think
Tipton.
Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior, it didn't transcend as a decom. A lot of these people too, they were known for their associated decoms. And so if the associated decom, I mean, I guess, is that true? Because Zach and Cody were never even in a decom.
No, but also Miley Cyrus wasn't really in a decom either.
No,
but,
she
but
wasn't.
the impact was so big.
Yeah.
But here's what
The Lizzie McGuire movie was huge. I also think the Lizzie McGuire movie was huge. Wasn't it in theaters? Yeah.
It might have been.
No, it was. It was a theatrical release. Here's also the thing that Lizzie McGuire, why Hilary Duff is so obviously on the Disney Rushmore, is she cemented the idea that like Disney Channel shows could be for people who didn't just watch the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Like it was like a show that Disney Channel made that transcended that. On that note, one omission that we have is Shia LaBeouf, who again, Even Stevens was famously the first Disney Channel show to win an Emmy.
Yes.
And so that also, people say that like obviously you can't omit Shia because without him, no Disney Channel Emmy, no regard for Disney Channel TV as
I'm not
any
arguing
sort of,
that everyone off the Rushmore, it made no impact whatsoever. With Shia, I'm like, he just did Even Stevens. I also think it's almost like the show, you remember the show as a whole more than you remember specifically him shining on the show. And I also think when you think Shia LaBeouf, obviously you think holes and then you think whatever's going on with them at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also think like weirdly, there was a character called Beans in Even Stevens. He's shown more to me.
As you said, Beans, I'm like, I think of Beans.
I think Even Stevens was ultimately more of a showcase for Christy Carlson Romano. Obviously, Louis Stevens was an iconic character in a way, but like as a kid too, I really didn't like him. He was the reason, dude, I loved the Even Stevens scenes with Christy Carlson Romano. I did not like Louis.
Well, and then that's going to bring me, here's what I will say is an omission of someone who I think has a real case to be on the Rushmore, but I decided to omit, and that would be Ashley Tisdale for this reason. Combo, yes, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, but again, she wasn't really the star of that. But she was also on Phineas and Ferb, but also not really like the star of that, but she also contributed. And I would argue she is High School Musical, the breakout huge character of that.
Totally.
She's kind of like the Jack Sparrow
Well,
of High
Sharpay
School
was
Musical.
famously the only character in the movie that got a spin-off movie.
Exactly.
So,
and that was
we all
Disney
agree.
Channel, the first two
Yes.
Disney Channel originals, Disney Channel original spinoff. Ashley Tisdale, I think you could make a case, but I also think like I would have a hard time. Problem with the Rushmore, you got to take someone off to put someone on.
Here's the thing about Ashley Tisdale, though. I love her. I think she's obviously she was the main character in Sharpay's Great Adventure. But the real truth is like Disney Channel never actually gave her own star vehicle to shine in.
Yes.
And I think that really, again, speaks to her star power because they were giving her these like kind of side parts and she was shining in them so hard that like they were forced to give her a spinoff movie. But I'm like, we didn't get Ashley Tisdale never got to be a Lizzie McGuire.
No.
We never got to see that. So I think her impact, her failure to be on Rushmore is not because of her failure. It would be Disney's failure to platform her to the extent to which she may have deserved to be platformed.
But also, again, I do think she made a huge impact. I think Sharpay, I consider that like she is such a star. And I would say that a lot of the best musical moments are Ashley Tisdale on that. So I would say she has a legitimate argument, but again, I can't remove Raven, Zack and Cody, Miley, or Hilary Duff for her.
Because all of those are vibe defining. And I think that's that vibe defining.
Also,
Just like
I feel the same about Christy Carlson Romano, where I'm like, it seems like she's a great supporting character, but I think never really rose to the iconic status. You know what I mean?
No.
But again, that's my Disney Channel Mount Rushmore.
And that's our Disney Rushmore. And I agree with Roberts. Yeah, I agree with
Roberts.
Roberts.
It was crazy. This
Disney
was a
Rushmore.
moment where I said it. I just dropped it off the bat, and I saw Dana almost want to debate. And you kind of can't.
Also, I think it feels right. Like when you say that to me, I'm like, that feels right to me. And again, maybe this is a reflection of specifically our age. and era, but I don't think so, because I think what we're talking about is the template that it set for the vibe and tone of what we all collectively associate with the Disney Channel.
And also, by the way, to be so clear, these are not my personal four.
No.
I never watched Lizzie McGuire.
I did, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Watch my short, so like, what are we?
Okay, now
Anyway.
we're plugging your
No,
short
sorry.
film. We're trying to talk about real history
Yeah, you're right.
here.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're talking about real history. We're talking about the Disney Channel history.
Let's talk about the Rushmore of my short film.
No. Although I'd be on it.
I know you'd be on it because
There's
there
like
are
four
four characters in it.
But anywho, going back to Disney Channel, which I know is impossible for you to do. Going back to the Disney Channel thing of it all, it's like I watched Phil of the Future a lot. I can never put Phil of the Future or Ali Mashaka on a Mount Rushmore.
We
even though
love Ali and AJ, and they were a huge part of the Disney Channel ethos, but they were not. They're not on the Rushmore.
Really. You know what I mean? They were kind of like they were in there. But
Did you ever see
really.
Cowbells?
No. Oh, I've seen ads for it. I never saw the thing.
It was almost like the Disney Channel's fictionalized Simple Life in a way. Right?
I think there is one more omission from the Disney Channel Mount Rushmore, but I almost think it's too late. Zendaya technically was Disney, but she's much too
Bella
late.
Thorne,
Bella Thorne,
this is
Disney,
exactly what
it's
we're
too
talking
late.
about. So Shake It Up was an iconic show with famously Zendaya and Bella Thorne, but here's the big problem. Disney Channel's vibe had already been set by the people that we talked about on our Rushmore.
Zendaya was kind of running a playbook. They already ran with Demi Lovato. They already ran with Selena Gomez, and that was kind of already perfected with Miley Cyrus.
We're talking about people who contributed to like the blueprint of Disney Channel stardom as we know it in the 21st century.
Yeah.
I think that's super what it is.
It's like if you Joe Biden was on Mount Rushmore all of a sudden. You'd be like, what? You're having a guy from 2019?
Well, also, he did zero to define like American values.
Well, but also it's like, it's too late. You know what I mean? You can't have someone from 2020 on Mount Rushmore.
No.
From the 2020s.
And again, you said in Raven's Rushmore, there's some like older whatever.
Yes.
Here's my thing, like Disney Channel, it was not like a thing like it was until like the late 90s. Early 2000s.
Well, yeah, and I guess Raven's argument would be like, oh, like they paved the way, but also I'm kind of like, look, man, it's about iconic status.
Yes.
You know, I don't care if John Quincy Adams helped pave the way for Teddy Roosevelt. I can picture what Teddy Roosevelt looks like.
He's the one with the mustache.
Yes, and the glasses.
Yeah. Dude, oh my God, that always makes me think about like, do I need a more iconic look if I'm going to be remembered?
You should start dressing exactly like Teddy Roosevelt.
Should I get a mustache? I have one.
You don't
I
have a
shaved it.
mustache. You always say you have a crazy mustache.
You always say I
have
don't have a mustache because I shave it.
All right, how about this? Don't shave it and let's see.
No, I don't want to see. I know what it looks like. It looks like a mustache.
No, it doesn't look like a mustache. I would just like to see it.
I look like a cop in a porno. I don't.
You don't? What cop? Yeah, I look like one of those 4'11"
I don't think I've ever seen a
cops.
porn with a cop. Because that's propaganda.
Because that's propaganda. I don't watch
and
that.
I would boycott that, obviously.
When someone's like, yeah, I have a fetish for getting fucked by police officers. I'm like, okay, propaganda?
Propaganda much?
Okay, your
I'm like,
porn
unless it's okay if it's the porn is where you're pegging the police officer.
I only watch porn where it takes place at a DSA meeting. That's it.
Dude, I went to one DSA meeting and I am a leftist in my heart and soul. But actually, am I? I don't really know. I'm politically whatever, you know? And I can say that because I'm a woman of color. But yeah, I went to one DSA meeting and everyone there smelled so bad that I was like, whatever my politics are, they include deodorant.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say.
Well, that's kind of my beef with polyamory, where it's just like, I'm all for it. You don't want to commit to one person or whatever, but like, why is being stinky part of it? That's kind of my thing.
Commit to a deodorant.
Commit to a deodorant, though.
Commit to a clinical strength antiperspirant.
You try all these different partners. How about you try all these different soaps?
Yes.
Yeah.
But on that, just a little, or can I continue, or are we segueing back to Disney Channel?
Do whatever you'd like to do.
I was going to say about polyamorous people and their natural odor. There is a lot of theory about how your natural like stench actually makes you like more attractive to the people who like would be attracted to you. So maybe there's some sort of like pheromone game that these poly people are playing, where the reason why they're stinky is because they're trying to attract as many sexual partners as possible.
Maybe. I just find it so interesting that polyamorous people are like, I don't know who I'm going to go on a date with tonight. I don't know who I'm going to wake up beside tomorrow, but I do know I'm going to smell like shit the entire time. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
And I love that.
Robert and I share deodorant.
We do, which is like that's
We
another
both,
level of
if anyone
monogamy.
wants to know how we smell here at the Midnight Milkshake podcast, secret cozy vanilla.
We hear a lot about like the loneliness epidemic. Like everyone's so lonely today. Everyone's so lonely. And it just got me thinking that like, yeah, but the flip side of that is that like being alone is awesome today.
Yeah, being alone has never been more fun. There has never been a time in history where it's like chiller to be alone.
In like the 1800s, if you were alone, dude, there's nothing to do.
No.
You're just looking at the woods, nothing to do. But now if you're alone, look, you can play video games. You can scroll on your phone. The Disney adults have done a pretty good job of like destigmatizing going to theme parks without kids. There literally is so much you can do just as an individual by yourself. Being alone is awesome. So everyone's complaining like, oh man, no one's getting married. No one's hooking up. Everyone's by themselves. It's like, yeah. The flip side of that though is like being by yourself has never been more fun.
And that's also the problem. It's like the chicken egg phenomenon where we're talking about like, oh no, like there's this loneliness epidemic. It's like, no, there's an epidemic of like how freaking fun it is to be lonely.
Yeah.
Like that's the epidemic.
That's
epidemic
the problem.
that is the problem. And I'm like, I was even thinking about, obviously not to, God, I'm going to accidentally like try to get women's rights removed or whatever. But I would always think about this when I was in high school. Don't look at me like that. When I was in high school and I could drive, I would just drive around in my car and follow people on the road. And that was like really fun for me. I could spend hours doing this. And if women, but there was a time where women couldn't drive and I wouldn't have been able to do that as a solo activity. Also, what's been deeply normalized is people going to the movies alone and going out to eat alone. That's a...
No.
What?
You don't get to put two normal things after a crazy thing. And then, so we just breeze right on past it. You're like, yeah, being alone is great. Like, I will hide under strangers' beds. So when they sleep, I can come out and I can try on all their clothes and watch them while they sleep. And also getting a table for one at my local diner. And when someone's like, what the fuck? You're like, oh, what? You think you need to eat breakfast with a friend? No. What do you mean you followed people?
I've talked about this before.
I know you've talked about it, but you know what? It's interesting.
What?
You've talked about how recreationally you would just follow people in your car in high school a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I wipe it from my memory.
Is that what you need to do to continue to love me?
I think it may be.
Yeah,
It's not a
maybe.
conscious decision, but it slips my mind.
Yeah. Well, in high school, I famously didn't have a lot of friends. I don't know why I said friends. Like it was a slur.
I didn't have friends.
I don't have that many friends. And so, yeah, like if I'd find myself alone on a Friday night, it made me feel less alone to go follow people in my car.
Do you think those two things are related?
I didn't have friends because I was following people. I was doing stuff because I was the type of person to follow people in my car when I was alone. That is what left me lonely. I would say yes, except for when people found out that this was something I did. That's when I started making friends because they were like, I want to come. That sounds fun.
Or did they just say that to you the way that you befriend the weird kid in the back of the class after like a school shooting presentation?
I always say, no, definitely not. No one was like afraid. Like no one was being nice to me because they were afraid of what I do. I think people did befriend me like as a joke. Probably. Like, you know what I mean?
To me, it vibes like people found out that you're the type of person to stalk others in your vehicle, and they're like, "Hey, Dana, just letting you know that I think everything you're doing is fun. I would love to tag along sometime." Did anyone ever tag along with you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I had. That's how I had multiple people who I was not friends with come in my car and follow people with me.
Who was getting followed?
Just we'd pick a person. The whole game is you just get in the car and then you get on the highway and you pick a person and you follow them until they realize you're following them.
And then what do they
inevitably
do?
So it depends. A lot of people not that observant. Also in high school I was driving famously a charcoal gray Prius, one of the most common cars known to man. And again, most people are not actually looking in the rear view to be like, oh, is the same person behind me still? So a lot of times you could like follow people all the way home. They'd never be the wiser. You follow them home. Or sometimes they would notice and they would pull over and then like look at you and be like, what's going on? There was a time when we followed someone really far and they were going over a bridge and they pulled over like on the side of the bridge road. And we were like, oh, they definitely think we're following them because there was no reason to pull over on the side of the bridge road.
Well, you were following them.
Right. But like, to me, I'm like, it's presumptuous of you to assume I'm following you. It's presumptuous of you to assume.
I think it's presumptuous of you to think that you can follow people and somehow they're not going to be like, that's Dana Donnelly following
Most
me.
of the time, people did not notice.
And what's the squad you got in the car?
A myriad of different hooligans.
Yeah, these freaks get in the car. They're like, all right, let's go follow this person. I've got the zip ties and duct tape. And you're like, zip ties and duct tape? No, I'm not doing it. I'm just following them for real. And they're like, oh, okay.
People thought it was fun.
You have two stories. You have stories about you doing the weirdest, most unsettling shit anyone's ever done, and then you have stories about you being confused. You didn't have more friends, and you never just like bring those two little groups together.
Yeah, no, I never understand that one thing might have been the cause of the other.
What does following people do for you? Does it give you like the illusion of like you're connected to them?
I think that's what it started as. Like I was alone. I think there was also, I've always been the kind of person. Wait, what were we talking about?
We're talking about how you were an absolute insane person in high school following people in your car.
In fairness, I did just see a TikTok of some girls implying that they do that as well. Like they follow people.
You're never going to convince. This is not a trend. No one. This is not a thing that's going on. Nor should it be.
No, I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be. Oh, I was gonna say part of the reason that I think I was drawn to this as a concept was it's a free will flex. It's like this isn't something that's technically illegal. What can I get away with? Why can't I just go the same direction as this car? Like, you know what I mean? Like to me, it was just this test of like, yeah, what can they do about it?
Well, I'll tell you what they can do. They can make sure that you never feel popular and you don't have any friends amongst your peers.
But they weren't doing that. Like
you say they weren't doing that. I refuse to believe that you being unpopular and having no friends had
way
nothing
more
to do with
popular
this.
when people found out I was doing
That's
this.
based in fear.
That's not based in fear.
Just said that,
they thought it was amusing. They thought it was amusing. I became way more popular.
That the people who did this with you were hooligans.
I was joking. Hooligans was a joke.
Okay, they were
normal people.
They were not. Also, who are you following? I just can't get over, like, this is insane. Also, by the way, it goes without saying, and normally I'm not a big fan of it if the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
If I were following people in my car, game over. I'd lose my license. You know what I mean? They'd call the police.
I don't think they'd call the police. It's not illegal. You literally just say, oh, I happen to be going the same direction. They cannot prove you're following them.
But you were following them.
But they couldn't prove that.
But
this is why it was an exercise in free will. I was 16. Like, that's something, it's normal to challenge the boundaries of your environment.
At 16.
At that age, yeah. If I was doing it now, that would be crazy.
Well, that reminds me of something I would do at 16 to just kind of test the boundaries. What I would do is I would grab a duffel bag, I would put on a ski mask, I would run into a bank and go, this is and then I would stop.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done the crime part yet. And it's a test of free will, and it's not illegal. And I would then just like leave.
Here's the thing. I think you could do that and you'd have a good case.
But then you know what? Then I wouldn't be able to be like that weekend be like, how come I'm not invited to any bank parties? How come no one at the bank wants to hang out with me?
I'm telling you, I started getting invited to parties after I started doing this.
I maintain two things. It's either fear on behalf of the normal people in your class, or you accidentally worked your way into like the underworld, where they thought like you got initiated into a gang because you got invited to like the weird people who do crimes club because they think you're weird.
That actually was part of it.
There we go.
I realized inadvertently. Again, I was like the kind of lonely person where I was so lonely that I was doing crimes to make friends.
There it is.
Like, again, I talk about this all the time. And again, if you're the police and you're watching this, I'm obviously joking. I'm joking. Famously,
and if you're the police and you're watching this, earlier when we said we don't watch porn with cops in it, that's not true. We love porn with cops.
It's our favorite kind of porn.
It's our favorite
thank
kind
you
of
for
porn.
Thank you for inspiring it.
Cop porn.
We couldn't get off without you.
Yeah, if it weren't for the people like defund the police, and it's like, how am I supposed to whack off?
We'd be all backed up.
Does anyone like this?
Okay.
Valuable question for our listeners. Did anyone like the last 30
that?
seconds? Anyway, go on.
Anyway, wait, where was I?
There was an element of like underbelly crimes.
Oh yeah. Basically, it's like I inadvertently became low-key a drug dealer because part of this one person basically was like, oh, can I buy your medication from you? And I'm going to sell it to other people. And I didn't want money for the medication.
That's not low-key a drug dealer. That's dealing drugs. That's just key drug dealer. It's just normal key.
I literally just wanted to like prolong the interaction where I felt useful. So yeah, I sold some of my...
You can't say S for sold.
I may or may not, if you're a policeman... It's the not one. I may or may not have sold my Klonopin to a kid at school because I wanted to make a friend.
Did you?
Make a friend?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a lasting friendship. They kind of... yeah, also shortly after that, I did get cut off from my prescription of Klonopin.
Why?
It may have seemed like I was abusing it.
There it is.
Because I maybe was, but...
There it is.
Yeah. Anyway,
Bro,
so that's one way that loneliness roped me into a life of crime. Another way was I was a very internet savvy. I was a very internet savvy teen because I spent so much time alone, and I had the Silk Road web extension, which if you don't know, that's the dark web where you can purchase drugs on it. And because I had the Silk Road web extension, and I had Bitcoin because I had gotten Bitcoin so I could buy a fake ID. Also, the fake ID was mostly so I could buy other kids alcohol. Yeah. Anyway, I had some Bitcoin, so I did buy some kids some ecstasy for a concert. And if you're the police, this is a joke. You on the dark web, and this was because I was lonely. I wasn't I didn't have any crime spirit in my soul. I never even did these drugs except for the ones I was prescribed.
That
I sold. But I only sold them because I wanted to be friends. I wanted to make friends.
Hey Robert, how you doing? Sorry, I'm just like trying to greet myself because I assume I'm in a courtroom in the future watching this video played. I think it's a cool meta moment. What's up, Robert? Hey yo.
And again,
just so you knew even now.
You know that this is for comedic purposes, everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously. This is for comedic purposes.
Yeah. I love it how it's like your short form video content is like, I'm wearing this to the gym because my ops would love me to not work out, but I think exercise makes you healthy. And then you're on the podcast being like, so those pills were kind of sold via the dark web in exchange for Bitcoin to this girl that I was stalking, but she didn't know I was stalking her. Oh, cool. Also, you're literally you're like,
This is Dana After Dark. This is Midnight Milkshake.
Welcome to Dana After Dark.
This is Dana After Dark, where I tell the real story.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to say is like, I am a very like clean cut, upstanding member of society. Everything that I did in my youth, I think I can literally explain with, I was freaking lonely and I wouldn't do it today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything like that today.
Well, when they asked Al Capone why he got into bootlegging, Al Capone was like, well, no one would invite me to the sock hop. No one would invite me to the 5 and 9. I am just like, this is also funny. Hey, guess what? I was lonely in high school, too. I would play Madden and watch Girls on Girls. I'd watch the show HBO's Girls. I wouldn't like watch Girls. See, I have to specify that because now we're in like a dark web thing.
No. I just also I want to say again. I want to say again.
A dungeon.
If you're watching
Syria.
this at home, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And if we're in a court of law, guys, I was joking, and you can make jokes. It's my First Amendment right.
This isn't your First Amendment right.
I was a minor.
And it's also so funny to be like, yeah, I wasn't really all that popular. So just to pass the time, I wasn't going to parties. I executed FBI informants by the river. It's just what I did. I was lonely. This is why you were lonely. This is it. This is the reason. I
didn't know how to be liked. I didn't even know what people liking me or not liking me looked like.
Yeah,
you
thought it looked like someone like in a sweat sitting next to you while you're following just like a girl from your math class back to her home.
I would never follow anyone I know. They were all strangers.
That's weirder. You say that like it makes it normal. That's weirder.
Because it's just a lark. It's just like it is.
Tis not but a jest.
It's like, I see a green car, a couple cars ahead of me. Wonder where they're going. Let's find out.
Yeah.
That's not against the law.
But it is running into a bank and going, and it's like, it's not against the law, but like, just because something's not against the law doesn't mean it's ideal. I feel like me saying that like broke some wiring in your head a little bit.
Yeah, but we're not living. I wasn't my ideal self back then. That's what I would say.
That's true.
I would say I was living and working through things. And like I always say about myself, again, in the Bible, it says, only fools learn from their own mistakes. Wise men can learn from the mistakes of others.
Of course.
I am a fool through and through. I literally cannot learn a lesson unless I do something wrong and then something terrible happens to me. And it is only then when I go, that was wrong. And that's how God teaches me lessons, is the hard way. And famously, I did get arrested in high school. You know this.
Here's crazy.
What?
It's a miracle you weren't less popular. It's a miracle to me that you're even allowed back into your hometown. It's a miracle to me that you don't walk into your hometown and people don't have like pictures of you hung up on every telephone pole.
It is amazing. I
It's
always
amazing.
say, you know why it is though? It's because they're sexist and heightist. And I would be taken a lot more seriously as a threatening force if I was a little bit taller and a man.
You are too Muppet coded
Yeah,
to be held accountable
like,
for a lot of your crazy shit.
I think that's
real.
true. Again, I always say this. God gives his worst tempers, and I would say also poorest judgment to his smallest soldiers.
Yes.
And I think that there's a reason for that. And it's that like, yeah, if I were in any different kind of package, I don't even know where I'd be.
Well, also,
man.
I do think you needed to be born in exactly this time in history because
I
the
always think
stakes
that.
for people are so much lower than they were even like 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
You needed to be born in kind of an insulated society. You're
Yeah.
from Palo Alto also, which is kind of like a very like wealthy area. So it's like this whole like, hey, I'm just gonna test the limits of the law, make every mistake I can make,
Yeah.
alienate whoever I alienate, and
Yeah.
then see what happens after. That only works in a relatively kind of safe, insulated environment.
Well, it is a bubble. I grew
Yeah.
up in a bubble, and I tried to burst the bubble. And I didn't. I couldn't. The bubble was
you
just
just
Teflon
ran
bubble.
full speed at the bubble and kept bouncing
Yeah,
back.
I kept bouncing back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what's crazy. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm like, if I just tried to play the follow random cars game, I would get shot and killed.
But that's also the beauty of growing up in California, or like especially specifically in a liberal kind of Bay Area community, is like pretty sure my dad did say this to me one time where he was like, Dana, you can't be doing just stuff like that. He's like, because people have guns.
Yeah.
And he's like, you will get shot.
And you were like, my dad's so dumb and stupid.
I did have a close call where I was following this guy one time. I was alone. And I think he got caught on that I was following him. And he exited to like an exit where there was no one off the exit. And he like did some circles around my car. And I did feel in that moment, I was like, I took a break after that one.
What's happening?
What do you
Also,
mean?
what's funny when
I'm just trying to share my life with you.
But when we start
Like-
recording this podcast, I'm going in being like, oh,
Okay.
it's gonna be like a sitcom. It's gonna
Right,
be like
yeah.
it's gonna be like Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And then you're like, welcome to my FX limited series.
I'm
like,
trying to keep it
whoa.
light. I'm trying to keep it light.
What's
It's light
about that?
Because like I'm on the
What-
other side. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but what's the
I'm
lightness?
okay. That's the light. The
So, yeah,
light
you
is,
can do okay.
and it's okay, and then we're okay.
But it's not
and
really
here we
like
are.
a pure perseverance story because no one would be in that scenario where they're just repeatedly following people.
Well, let's go back to our topic, which is that it's really fun to be alone these days.
It's never better.
It's never better.
You can become a stalker. It's never been easier to be a stalker on the low. Why are you complaining? People are like, I'm going to die alone. I'm like, no, you're going to die trailing a green car you just spotted off the 5. What are you complaining
Lucky you.
about?
There's never been a better time to be
Dude,
alive.
my grandma's always
Yeah.
like, why do you come visit more? I'm like, Grandma, you don't need me to visit. Get behind the wheel, pick a car, and just follow them until they catch on.
And again, we don't recommend this, and this is a comedy podcast.
Yeah. Well, I've never done this.
And Robert's never done this.
I've never done
and
this.
I have never done this either. I was just kidding.
Where we made it up.
That was all made up. And I'm looking into, I have a lying problem.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
That's your only problem is she fibs, but only about the bad stuff.
Every bad thing that I admit to, that's a fib.
I feel like you were a girl that when you went on field trips, suddenly all the kids in your class who you thought were your friends actually didn't fuck with you. That's the thing about going on field trips is it because it removes all the kids in the class from the classroom context, and you get to see like who likes you for real.
Well, I realized how reliant my social status was on the seating charts. Because what? Also, I realized people did like having me in group projects because I do all the work.
So you thought you were popular the whole time. You were just a seating chart group project merchant.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really, again, I always would think about this, but I'm like, dude, when seating chart switch up day would come, like a couple times a year, I'm sure you guys had this.
Yes.
I was always so nervous because it would be like I'd have to get in with like a new group of people.
Dude, it's like starting from scratch.
It's like starting from scratch. Like I had the hardest freaking time. And oh God, you guys, like I was telling Robert this is why you brought it up. Field trip days in school truly illuminated to me that like I had no idea how to make friends, and I had no idea who was and wasn't my friend. I don't know why I sound like such a loser today. I'm not a loser anymore.
Just tell the field trip story.
Basically, I
the
realized
jig is up on you being a loser.
Okay. On field trip days, I hated them. I dreaded them because I never had a field trip buddy. Everyone knows when you and your class go on a field trip, it's like you have to have someone just next to on the bus. and I never had anyone to sit next to on the bus, and it would make me so freaking anxious. Also on field trip day, there were like certain groups of girls who would like all dress alike on field trip day. Never got the memo. Anyway.
And you said, just you wait. When I get my license, you'll see me in the rear view mirror and be like, how long has been Dana behind me?
But yeah, I just never had a field trip buddy, and it really illuminated to me that the people who were my friends in the classroom, it was only in the classroom.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I will say about field trips, because obviously I wasn't doing the type of freak shit you were doing. But on field trips, I would realize how my social standing actually stood with my classmates. I would learn it for real. And again, I thought pretty well liked by my class, but you also realize that like there is just a certain social leg up you get that has nothing to do with you based on like where your parents live. So I realized that there were a lot of kids who like when we're all at school together, I was like popular and liked, but then they would go home and their homes were next to each other. So they're just hanging out all the time because their parents hang out. And so I'm falling behind socially. I don't even realize that's what's going on. Because I remember one time on a field trip, this guy in my class, John was like, "Hey, Robert, do you think Caroline is better friends with you or with me?" He kind of said it like that. By the way, we're like in middle school right now. He goes, "Do you think Caroline is better friends with you or with me?" And I, of course, had a crush on Caroline at this time. And I went, "I don't know. I feel like she's probably better friends with me." And then John went, "Yeah, she came over to my house last week."
Oh.
And then in that moment, I like really, it like hit me all at once. Like, wait a minute. Whoa. It doesn't matter how much Caroline likes me when we're seated next to each other in the seated chart. At the end of the day, she goes over to John's house because her parents and John's parents were friends. By the way, both these people, as we grew up, they were perfectly lovely people, no issue. But it is just this thing where it's like, damn. Also, dude, low-key some real Machiavellian mind games.
On John's part.
John's really playing some Game of Thrones shit.
Well, I was saying, I'm like, that's how you know that Caroline clearly liked you, is John would not have even bothered to do that if Caroline didn't like you.
If John didn't view me as a rival for Caroline's friendship, it would
friendship.
Well, it's sixth
grade. Right. There really
like,
can't be more than that.
Nobody was like, "Hey, Robert," he's not like, "Hey, Robert, you think Caroline's better friends with you or me?" Because we banged last night. We were in sixth grade.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, but yeah, family friends is like such an underexplored kind of like again, it's like when you are in a school environment, so many times you realize like there's so much that's happening outside of school that you're not privy to amongst your classmates. Like I was telling Robert that there was a guy I had a crush on, and there was the most popular girl in our grade. And I do think that this guy had a crush on me in hindsight. But because him and this girl's parents, all of their parents were friends, they would hang out so much outside of school. And so even if he did like me, it didn't matter because she was the girl who was always at the barbecue.
She was the girl who was always at the barbecue, and I'm just at home wishing that I was with you. You say hello. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Take it slow. I'm just barbecuing." The girl at the barbecue
wasn't me.
The girl at the barbecue.
It was she.
Sorry, is it me or is that good as fuck?
I think that we should. I mean, it's the TikTok meme of like, should we quit our day jobs and become musicians?
Yeah. Should we?
Should we? Let us know.
This is a general statement. It does seem like more and more, I think we have stigmatized breaking up more than we should. And culture in general. I think it's this thing where I think people have this real fear of breaking up. Because like,
you know why though? I think it's because they have a fear of getting married. I think the reason why it's like this, it's actually a similar, it's like a snake eating its own tail of like, okay, at some point in your relationship, you have to decide like, are we going to be together forever or are we going to break up?
Yes.
But if you're afraid if you're the kind of person who's afraid to say, I want to be with you forever, then also you're going to also be the kind of person who's afraid to break up. Because why are you afraid to break up? Because you're afraid, you're not even afraid of, people aren't afraid of breaking up. They're afraid of saying, I want to be with you forever. And then if everyone's afraid of saying, I want to be with you forever, then there's like, it's just like, you're waiting until you have to like make a new decision. Like, if that makes sense.
I think it's two things. I think there's whatever. I think that people are afraid of growing up because I think they interpret like growing up means if I get married, that means like, well, I'm just an adult now and I'm just stuck. This is just my life.
It's a Peter Pan syndrome.
But I also think we've stigmatized it like somehow like to break up is to fail. And also I think there's all this language about like when you break up, it's automatically someone's fault. Someone's always the toxic one. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's this thing where it's like, so I don't want to become the villain by breaking up, but I also don't want to become my grandpapa by getting married.
Right.
So I'm just stuck in this middle.
I also think this. I think a lot of that comes from people are dating other people for the wrong reasons. And that's a huge thing where it's like they have ulterior, especially in LA. People have ulterior clout motives for dating people a lot of times, dude. And when people in LA are dating for clout, obviously they don't want to lose the clout. So they like, that's why they go to therapy over it. They're like, oh, my relationship is giving me clout. A lot of times in LA too, you see people and you're like, you guys are obviously with each other for clout because together as a unit, you get more clout than if you are alone.
Yeah.
And that's why you're going to couples counseling. It's not because you want to work on the relationship. It's because you don't want to lose your clout.
And by the way, people might look at us and be like, well, they're with each other for the clout. And I would say that's fine, but we don't go to couples counseling. We have AMC stubs.
Right.
So that's kind of what we do. Yeah. Also, but I would say it's a mutual clout leech.
But I would also argue, again, like we've talked about, our clout stocks have been up and down. And also, as a unit, actually, we don't get community clout. I think that's crucial. Where in a lot of couples in LA, they merge forces. A lot of people, two people with like I'll use numbers. Let's say we have two people with 5 clout. They each have 5 clout. But when they're dating as a unit, now they're a 9. So now as a unit, they can be in social circles with other people who are 9s because as a couple, they're a 9 clout.
Well, I would say when we started dating, I'm going to give you a number. Yeah. I'm going to say, let's say you had 9 clout.
Right.
And I had 6 clout.
Right.
You would think, well, together you'll have 8 clout. No, together we had like negative 10
we
clout.
like negative 10 clout because people don't like to see people with more than 7 clout. I am just saying things now. People don't like when 2 people with more than 7 clout get together because then they become a threat as a unit.
Hey, you at home, don't look away from the screen. You need to be taking notes on this.
Hey, this is important.
If you have 9 clout and someone has 6 clout and you average out to above 7 clout, people who individually have less than 5 clout don't like it and they subtract clout from you. This is what I say. Again, when my grandma asks me how I'm liking LA, I start saying this to her and I get so pissed.
But again, a real power couple will always be low key, like not. People actually don't want to see a power couple coming.
No,
they don't want that. They don't want a power couple.
No. Which is why, as a couple, we've achieved very little real world power.
Yes.
I would say that's true.
I would say that we
have the power of we enjoy spending time with each other.
That is our power.
Which you say that in this town, they don't give a shit.
They don't care.
I'm like, but we love each other.
They're like, but your stock, your individual stock isn't increased by this marriage.
Yeah.
And we say,
Captain Hollywood, commander of LA, will be like, tell me about this couple, and we're like, well, we really love each other. We love spending time together. And he's like, yeah, I'm looking at your chart though. You average out to a combined 7.
Yeah.
So. Ooh. Boy.
But yeah, I would say that, like, again, couples therapy early on, if you're going to couples therapy early on, that indicates to me that you guys are with each other for reasons that are not you like this person or not. Because the reality is, like, liking people, genuinely liking each other is very powerful and it can get you through a lot.
And by the way, some people will say stuff like, well, no, but like, what if I like this other person, but our communication styles are really different, so we need a therapist to help bridge that gap? I'm like, I would say that, like, yo, if you've been together a few months and you can't communicate effectively, that is a valid reason to break up. Yeah. Here's what I would say. I'm not saying don't go to couples counseling, even though I kind of believe it, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like, if you should just have breakup on the table. Like, if you're having a conversation about we should go to couples counseling, that should also be a conversation about should we break up or should we go to couples counseling, and also acknowledge either option is equally, like, moral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, equally moral. I also have another thing about this. I think that people in our generation don't know how to fight. They don't know
that's kind of what I'm getting
how
at,
to argue. I think that's a big thing too, where it's like so many of us as kids, because, like, I mean, people talk about this. Boomers who raised us and some Gen Xers, famously selfish, egocentric, like self-centered people who oftentimes did not listen to us talk. They didn't care about our feelings. They didn't care what we had to say, blah, 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 blah. But because of that, a lot of us literally don't know how to advocate for ourselves. We don't know how to say what we want. And so we never get what we want. But I think so much of, like, this couples counseling thing is like, I don't even know how to tell you. I mean, again, so much of, you shouldn't go to couples counseling. You guys should both be in individual therapy, figuring out how I as an individual need to communicate my truth. Yeah. And you should be doing that before you're dating, presumably.
Well, also, I don't know. And also, again, like, if you've, like, been dating a long time, or you're, like, getting married, or you live together, or, like, whatever, it's like, no, go to couples counseling, whatever.
Like, also sometimes there are communication issues that maybe you do need a third party to help you bridge the gap.
But I'm being like, yo, there's people who are like, they've just kind of been dating a year or two.
Or not Raven. Like they'll be dating like 5 months and they're like, we're going to therapy.
I think that's literally
weird.
I think that's literally because people, like you said, they're afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
They don't know how to have conflict.
Yes.
They don't know how, because they think that any conflict has to be, they think all conflict is either the boomers being like, I'm punching holes in the drywall, or they think it's the new age conflict where it is a battle of therapy speak, and the loser is the abuser.
Yes.
And they literally think that's how it has to be. And they're like, well, I don't want either of those, so I guess I'll just go to couples
I think
counseling.
that's real as fuck. I think people are really terrified of having they saw their parents fight when they were kids and they were like, well, I don't want that.
What I do is I go around and I kind of try to spot couples who I think should be arguing and aren't, and I encourage them. So like the other day, like I saw a couple. It was a guy and a girl, and then the girl was kind of clearly flirting with the bartender a little bit, and she was kind of really flirting and joking around. And I like walked up right up to the guy and I was like, "You don't have to take that, bro. You need to tell her how much that pissed you off." And then he was like, "Oh, I'm actually not here with this girl. We just happen to be sitting next to each other at the bar." And I'm like, "That's the most beta conflict avoidant shit I've ever heard." And then I was escorted out. But guess what? I made a choice.
Yes.
I said that, guess what I'm going to do? I'm either going to save this couple or I'm going to be escorted out of the Cheesecake Factory. And more often than not, I'm escorted out of the Cheesecake Factory because I live a life of consequence.
Because he's not afraid.
I'm not fucking afraid to get thrown out of the Cheesecake Factory. And yeah, at the Americana, you might think if they throw you out of the Cheesecake Factory, they'll throw you into the fountain. They don't. They throw you onto the pavement. Ouchie.
Ouchie.
But I do it again and again because too many people are going to couples therapy.
Too many people are going to couples therapy.
Because, by the way, some of the healthiest couples, I've talked about this before. Some of the healthiest couples have like little, you realize they have actually gotten the art of conflict down to a science where they have little mini conflicts that are resolved quickly.
Yes.
I.e. whisper arguments.
The whisper arguments.
Where
yes.
we will like spend time with couples. We were on a vacation with a couple like this. Great couple.
Yes.
I legitimately think they're happy.
Yes.
I don't really communicate with them much anymore.
No, but like,
I like them. But anywho, we're on vacation and they would have like this thing where like the girl would be like, I think we should all get this appetizer. And then the guy she was with would be like, I don't know. I feel like that'll upset my stomach. And then she go, no, you always say it upsets your stomach. It doesn't upset your stomach. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. No, that's not this ingredient. It's a different ingredient. Okay, all right, you're right. All right, yeah, let's just get it. What they actually did was healthy.
They resolved a conflict. There was a conflict. She said, I want this thing. He said, no, I don't want that thing. She said, yeah, you do want that thing. He said, okay, I want that thing.
What they did was they had a little minor, little whisper argument that was resolved immediately, as opposed to just say nothing, and then 2 years later, he shoots a gun in the air and says, "You never listen to me when you order appetizers."
Right. Ability to micro communicate in a way that's like not disruptive is like so crucial. And again, okay, here's my thing too. I would not call myself a good like micro communicator because again, I'm constantly confronting in a way that's like maybe disruptive.
You have never left a single conflict on the table.
No, I don't have swallow it in me. Like that's just not my vibe.
Yeah, that does remind me of Dana today was hungry, and you might be like, "What? Doesn't Dana get hungry every day?" I'm like, "No, today Dana was hungry.
I was hungry today.
She was so." Here's what Dana will do. I'll be like, "Hey, Dana, I want to get some food." She's like, "I'm not really that hungry." I'm like, and then a couple hours later, I'm like, "Dana, you sure? I'll get you some food." "Oh, I'm not really that hungry." And then 3 hours later, she'll be like, "Why haven't you gotten me food?" And I'm like, "I did offer." So today, I offered to get her food in the morning to go to this food truck place on TikTok. She said no. We went on a walk. After the walk, I was like, "Hey, want to get lunch? I'll get you some lunch." She said, "No, I really don't want to." Okay, fine. Came back, did a little bit of stuff, had a Zoom call. After that, I'm like, "Hey, want to get lunch before we go to the gym?" She goes, "No, I don't need to get lunch. Let's just go to the gym." And then I'm at the gym and I'm working out and I'm on the Stairmaster. And then Dana just storms into view and goes like, by the way, it is funny because I'm like, I'm sure other people in the gym clocked that. And I was like, she was really hungry. And then we got her food and it was fine.
We did. We got me food.
But also just like suddenly it was just like she's doing enraged mime, which actually quite talented space work.
Thank you so much. Well, you can't say I don't know how to communicate.
No. Again, you have never not communicated. You don't know how to not communicate.
I don't know. It also reads on my face if I'm thinking something. If I'm
You're never
feeling
gonna
something.
you're never going to believe this. I was actually hungry 10 minutes ago. I look back at like the room you just trashed. I'm like, yeah, I can believe it.
Well, again, I was thinking about it. I was like, he said 30 minutes? I'm like, it's going to be 30 years because I'm going to kill someone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in prison for 30 years. That's literally what I was thinking outside. I'm like, 30 minutes? I'm not 30 minutes. That's how I felt inside.
Yeah.
And outside. That's how I felt inside and outside.
Yeah, you're like, you're never going to believe this. Inside, I was actually in a rage because I was hungry. I'm like, that was not just inside. You're never going to believe this. You're doing indoor, outdoor living emotionally.
We were walking back to the car, and I was like, I feel like I want to murder someone. And then Robert was like, well, I'm the only one here.
That's also it. You're always like, I just want to kill somebody. And I'm like, oh, wow, interesting tidbit to hear as the only person you spend time with.
And I am, of course, joking.
Yeah.